All right, so we're going to take a look here at the cockpit project. I showed this a couple days ago when I did my MVR video, and a couple people said, well, what's the web interface you're running on there? I mentioned it was cockpit. I've also done a more in-depth one on Webmin, because Webmin has a lot of features, so I went through a lot of the functionality you can get with Webmin. I like cockpit because it's rather lightweight. I don't usually use a web interface at all, but this is kind of a novel, easy system to use if you want to load a simple web interface to grab a dashboard. Now, this is primarily supported in Red Hat. That's where there seems to be the most features, but it does work with other distributions. So as you can see here, there's all kinds of little reports and applications and settings and fun stuff. All of that doesn't completely seem to work in the Debian distribution I'm on here, but the things that I need do happen to work. So we'll show you how to get it here, which running cockpit, pretty straightforward. Here's your different distros, Red Hat, Fedora, CentOS. And because it's a Fedora-backed project, if you're on there, you just install it. So you can just use their installer to install it. With Debian, you just have to enable the stretch backports. If you're using Debian 9, pick the version you're using here, and away you go. Sudo apt-get install, or just apt-get installed if you're root. But they have support for a few other OSs here as well. Now, the default port is 9090. So here's our test machine, 192.168.3.9090. 190:9090, sorry. And I've got it set up here. Now, I will make a couple quick notes here about setting it up. So when you go and install Cockpit, apt-get install Cockpit, it will install, but there's actually a couple different pieces here. For example, if you don't install Cockpit Package Kit, it won't know to do any software updates if you want them done via the Cockpit system. I also went ahead, and just to show you that they're in here, I put in the Docker apt-get install cockpit Docker. It does not install Docker, it just installs the interface for it, and machines. Now, the cool thing is when you install machines, it will partially set up overt, but it didn't do a complete install, and I'm not a real expert, and I didn't take the time to set up overt completely, but I wanted to show you that it's in here. And it does give an install VM failed. Like I said, I didn't dig into what I did wrong, but if you have overt working in your machine and you load Cockpit, Cockpit will be able to help out with that. So from the system page here, we can see the number of CPU cores. We can click on that so you can, get a little chart on things. And like I said, that's probably the reason I've loaded it, just to kind of get a quick web interface to visualize looking at the system. Has also show your shell key fingerprints, host name, the ability to restart or shut down. And if you click on hardware information, it gives you a little bit of hardware information on here. This is a virtual machine running on my Zen server. So it's virtualized, so that's why some of the things are like they are in here. It does get to see what does get passed through to the main machine, but you see it's hardware virtualization module. Logs, you can look at lots of logs, recent logs, current logs, all the logs, last 7 days. Now, this is pretty slick because if you just want to quickly be able to do things like right here, I apt-get transaction update with package kit, you can see some of the things that I've done. Look in there, load earlier entries if you can't find something in there. Kind of novel that it has this in there. It's, to me, not as good as, but it is really nice to have that you can dig into things, and it kind of presents it in a very concise manner. I'm just still used to using the command line, but I like this. Storage-wise, no RAID set up in this one, but we can see my EMU drive. You can see the drive. You can set things up. You can mount things here. Pretty basic. It doesn't give you a ton of options, but it's got the basics here. Networking. Now, couple side note on the networking. The way the networking works inside of here is only if you have a system. Let me go over here real quick. Make sure I'm in the right place. So you have IF up down is how I'm used to using it, and I usually have an interfaces file here where I configure the interfaces. If that interface file exists, then the network manager cannot take over because it overrides it. So you do have to remove that. So if you want to be able to edit the network interfaces, the way you do that is by going inside of here and removing that file, letting Network Manager take care of it versus IF up down. Google that, you can learn about the differences. I'm not going to goes out of the scope of this. Now, I did, like I said, loaded the Docker in here, and this is Docker's not set up on the system. but it'll give you control over the Docker and the containers. I'm not a Docker expert, but kind of cool that it's built in here. Virtual machine support, like I said, for Overt, didn't get this working right, but I'm not an Overt expert, and it is installed in here, so that's kind of cool. Accounts, services, you can dig into different running services, their targets, and it's all managing this through systemd. And this is where I've seen a lot of some screenshots over on the Red Hat version, and it seems to have a lot more support for different details and applications, so maybe that support is coming for Debian. I'm not completely sure. I read some notes about it in GitHub, but I don't know when that's happening or if there's some way that you can enable it to be able to support more than just the basics of the system. Terminal. This is kind of cool because you are logging in directly through, so you're not SSHing and you're actually getting the terminal brought to you by Cockpit. So it's kind of nice that that's right in there. And the software updates, you can check for updates, and there's no updates here, so that nothing to show you, but it'll let you say yes and load the updates. And then you have the dashboard where you can look at CPU, memory, network I/O, and disk I/O. Now, this is something kind of novel about Cockpit. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward, but also kind of basic, especially running it here on Debian. But I like the way you can do this. So if we SSH into this other machine, so this machine that we're on is the 192.168.3.190. I'm going to SSH over to 172.16.69.150. Now I've already added my SSH keys, which is why I didn't ask for a password. But that's also, this is the NVR happens to be running Cockpit. So if we take this IP address here, we add a server, oops, and we add 172 here, and we hit add, it just adds it right away. So if you already have another machine that you can SSH into because you already got your key files set up, and look at how to do SSH keys. I'm not going to cover that in the scope of this. But this will allow you to log into the other machine. So here we are. We can hit a little pull down here, and now both of them show up. So we have the Debian one, and we have the NVR. This is the same NVR I loaded the other day that I used in, this is the unified video I did. Now, something extra, kind of novel here, is here's all the disks as you can see them inside the NVR. And go here, and this is the RAID array, and you can see the whole RAID array is in sync and working properly. So once again, it's pretty straightforward, and I like this too because then you can set up, you can visually see it without doing anything with the command line and kind of get an idea. Now we actually have this thing writing quite a bit because I have all the cameras still turned on, kind of burning the machine in. We can see how much memory it's using. And you get all these nice little pretty charts, which, like I said, this is one of the reasons we loaded this on the system. Logs to see if there's any issues or errors. PAM system failed to release session. That's actually because I had closed and stopped and started this before the demo, so those errors are related to me testing. But pretty cool. I mean, here's a visual of just the hard drive writes, reading, writing back and forth for each of the drives, and of course it's listed over here. Same thing, application, terminal. Said to refresh the page. Unfortunately, because I had logged out and logged back in before this demo, it just had to have a page refresh. But it works perfectly fine. So now I'm actually on this machine, which you can see I have the Oracle that I had to install for the Java and things like that here. But it's a pretty straightforward management tool. I like it. It's basic. I don't usually use a web interface at all on machines, but if you're going to use a web interface, can kind of look at things visually, or if you have, like I do, a staff that are less Linux savvy and maybe want to be able just to quickly look at things, it's a great little tool for doing this. It's lightweight, it's easy, it doesn't create a bunch of weird config files. It uses the system's config files and reads from the systemd to pull all this information together, so it doesn't have to install much, which is what keeps it lightweight. And hey, it's free. Why not give it a try? So if you're looking to get started in Linux and you're not sure or just want something visual to put on top of one of your headless servers, go ahead and give it a try. That being said, I don't know if there's planned support for this, but it doesn't support two-factor, so I thought that was kind of disappointing. It would be nice if they had two-factor inside of here, especially if you ever wanted to put this across the internet or anything like that. But that was my quick little overview of Cockpit. Go ahead and try it out. I'll leave a link to the project below. Thanks. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and click the thumbs up. Leave us some feedback below to let us know any details, what you like and didn't like as well, because we love hearing the feedback, or if you just want to say thanks, leave a comment. If you want to be notified of new videos as they come out, go ahead and hit the subscribe and the bell icon. That lets YouTube know that you're interested in notifications. Hopefully they send them, as we've learned with YouTube. Anyways, if you want to contract us for consulting services, you go ahead and hit launchsystems.com and you can reach out to us for all the projects that we can do and help you. We work with a lot of small businesses, IT companies, even some large companies, and you can farm different work out to us or just hire us as a consultant to help design your network. Also, if you want to help the channel in other ways, we have a Patreon. We have affiliate links. You'll find them in the description. You'll also find recommendations to other affiliate links and things you can sign up for on launchsystems.com. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.